Hi, Zach here with another chronic fatigue energy tip. Today's energy tip is about expanding your movement repertoire. This is a fancy way of saying, can you move in lots of different ways, in different planes of movement? A lot of us exist in what's called the sagittal plane, the front, where we just do things that are right in front of us. We bend at our waist, and when we want to attend to something, we turn and we're over here. But what we do forget to do is to be able to rotate. We forget to reach above shoulder level. We these are the kind of things that I frequently see in people with chronic fatigue or older adults that lose their energy. They lose range of motion in their joints and they stop moving um, in different planes of motion. So their movement repertoire is relatively limited. They do things that are right in front of themselves and don't require reaching of any significant distance or rotation of any kind. So ask yourself this: if you're having low energy these days, um, do you have any restrictions in your body of any joint that isn't moving quite as it should? Do a scan of your body. Is your neck rotating through all the planes of motion that it needs to do? Are your shoulders able to elevate fully without restriction above your head, behind your back? Do you have any pain anywhere in your arms? Quite frequently, people who have fatigue, or anybody who's had traumatic injury, your lat muscles and the internal rotators of your shoulders become really tight, and they prohibit you from being able to lift your shoulders up very high. And if you could relax these muscles, um, there's a lot of energy in those muscles. And there's also, once you relax those muscles, you're able to extend your thoracic spine and you're able to lift your arms higher over your head and you're able to do things with less effort. That's the name of the game in chronic fatigue. How can you reduce the resistance of your actions? How can you make things easier so that you can endure longer? A great way to do this is to scan your body and look for tightness in your body and look for restrictions in your range of motion. Are your knees bending as they should? Are they too tight? Are your hamstrings too tight so that you can't sufficiently do a straight leg raise without feeling a pull in the back of your knee? Do you have Achilles tendon tightness? What started me off several years ago down my path of fatigue was I was in a car accident, snapped my tibia, my ankle bone, pretty much in half. It was very very painful. I was a teenager, and it resulted in a shortened Achilles tendon on my left side and an injured growth plate. Well, over time, that tightness restricted my ankle, traveled up my leg, restricted my knee, traveled up my thigh, restricted my hip, traveled up my back, and as a result, I had a lot of back injuries as well. In physiotherapists, in chronic fatigue, tightness is the enemy. So much of people's effort in fatigue is around getting stronger, but what they neglect to do prior to getting stronger is reduce the tightness that exists in tight muscles. This is where myofascial releases or massages or stretches become really necessary because you can liberate a lot of energy by stretching a tight structure. And I know stretching gets a bad reputation these days because online people say, well, you stretch something that's tight and it feels good for a while and then it comes back and you got to stretch it again. Um, so it's ineffective or inefficient. And I say, well, perhaps, but if you expand your movement repertoire to include a stretch, um, and do that on an ongoing basis and have habits that have you stretch that out naturally, you're going to promote alignment and be able to move more efficiently, and that tight area is going to be um, relaxed so that you have a better range of motion. An example, I have a lot of tightness in my lower back because of a short leg. So one of my pelvis sits down like this, and the tightness exists because of a poor alignment in my back. Well, because I'm kind of bent this way from the tightness, scarred muscle, restrictions over years, I get in the habit of each day of stretching out just towards the opposite side. So I found a restriction and I'm incorporating into my daily habits, reaching out of that restriction and trying to stretch that tissue out. So whether it's your neck that's tight to one side or your shoulders that won't go over your head, or over your knee because of hamstring, or your ankle because of Achilles tendon tightness, what I'm suggesting here is find a way of stretching those things out. Because when you do, and you improve alignment, you will improve biomechanical efficiency, which means there will be less effort to move around, which means for you, you gain more freedom, more autonomy, and more independence. And by the way, a very good way to tell if you have tightness in your thoracic spine or your triceps or your lats is to simply lie on the ground and with your knees bent and your feet touching the floor, just simply try to reach over your head and place your forearms and the backs of your arms directly behind you on the ground. And I think what you'll find, I'm almost positive, is you won't be able to rest your arms comfortably on the ground when you do that. There's going to be a big gap between your arms and the floor. And you're going to go, oh, what's this about? And the reason is your thoracic spine is tight, and your lats and internal rotators are tight because they're guarding your body, which happens when you're in uh, crisis mode or acute health states. Those muscles become protective of you. So give that a try and see if you can. And incidentally, that's also the treatment. Each day, lay on your back with your hands over your head or out to the side and just feel everything in your back that starts to loosen up, and feel the tight chest muscles loosen up. And that's where it's at. That's where your energy can be found, stored in tight muscles, contracting those muscles. It's basically free fuel for you, but you got to milk it out of there. You've got to relax those muscles so that you can have that free energy to use elsewhere. Make sense? I hope so. Anyway, that's all for now. It's a huge topic, but I hope I've given you a few ideas on how to move forward if you're stuck in your chronic fatigue syndrome. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.